Hey everybody, I'm Michael from Michael Strong Rubber Stamps. Now today's show is all about division. I don't mean the kind we were supposed to learn in school. I never was too good at that. No, I'm going to show you a simple technique to divide up your picture plane into a pleasing composition. We're even going to divide up one of my rubber stamps today. So come on back and we'll get started. Now to begin this card, we're going to do a little painting first, and this is nothing to be intimidated about. What you'll need is just some acrylic paint that you get from the craft store, and I like to use colors in the same family, so I'm using blue-greens today. And this is just a regular paintbrush, nothing fancy. And what you want to do is kind of give it a little you want the brush strokes to show, and you want a little of the black paper to show through. And when you're done, it should look something like this. Now this one is one that I did before, and I added a little gold because you know, I'm a sucker for shiny stuff. So that's what I did on that one. Now from this, I cut a sheet. Now I cut this to measure 5 3/4 inches by 3 3/4 inches so that it will fit nicely on my 5x7 card. So the next step is to divide like I talked about before. And for that, I'm going to use the Scor-it Mini from Hammonds Group. It's a great little tool. I got it at my local stamp store at Stamping Details. They have a terrific online store. So what I'm going to do is use the measuring guide at the top to line this up because I want to make a score line about 1/2 inch away from the edge of the paper. This has a little slot in the top of the stylus, and it lines up with the guide, and you just score straight down like that. Now this is a great tool because it's perfect for people like me who are card makers, and also this is made perfect for me too because I would be losing this if it didn't have the chain. And if you're right-handed, you can move the chain over to the other side. So we'll just continue our score lines down, and I'm just going to score all 4 sides, and then I'm going to do it again, only I'm going to move it so that we have about 3/4 inch. And this will put another line inside that one that I just did. So we'll go all around and do the same thing. This is going to make a nice composition. And also, because I'm turning the paper as I'm scoring, it makes kind of a basket weave. Now, that looks terrific the way it is, but I'm going to take it one step further to emphasize these lines that I created by using a little sandpaper. And now you'll understand why I used black paper to begin with. I think that looks terrific. All right, so this is ready to go. We're going to set that aside, and we're going to work on the next step, which is the pot. Now this is the Cloisonne pot from my Michael Strong Rubber Stamp collection, and it's called an easy mount stamp. It's unmounted basically, and what you do is you get it and you put it right on your own acrylic block, and it's ready to go. All right, so what we're going to do is stamp this onto a piece of kind of cream color cardstock. First thing we're going to do is ink up the stamp, and what I'm using is a pigment ink, and if you remember, that's the sticky kind of ink that works good with embossing. And another thing to remember when you're using opaque embossing powder, which is what I'm using today, it doesn't really matter what color ink you use because it's going to be covered up. So whatever you have will work. Now there's the image. And what I'm going to do is sprinkle on the embossing powder. And this is just a nice midnight black. All right, so we'll get rid of the extra. And take that out of here. And then I'm going to heat this. You all recall how this works. This is really the magic part of rubber stamping, is the embossing process. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now what I want to do is to color it, and this will give it a little more of a 3D effect. So I'm going to use some dye-based ink and a color duster, and we're just going to swirl some of the color right on here. And I'm kind of just doing it at the bottom of the design because I'm going to save the top for something else a little bit later. So we're just putting a little bit on here. Now, I'm a brown person. I really like brown. In fact, I used to have the most perfect brown shirt, and I wore it all the time. And I think my wife and my mom got tired of seeing me in it. So one day they chased me around the house and they actually ripped it right off of me. And, you know, it was a perfectly good shirt. It had a few safety pins here and there, but it was, you know, one of those shirts that was all broken in and comfy, but oh well. I'm still a little bit bitter about that. But as you can see, I'm continued to cut this pot out here. Now, there's a thing about this pot, and I designed it so that it could be cut up into a lot of different ways. And for the card we're using today, we're using the bottom part, kind of like an open pot. And I'm going to cut off just this top part here. Now, I've designed this stamp so that it can be used in a lot of different ways. As you can see here, this is the original design. And then here it is combined with the top of the pot, the extra little piece at the bottom to make a pedestal. You can see all the different ways you could cut it up. You get different kinds of containers. So what I like to do is challenge you scrapbook loungers out there, that means you, Ron, to come up with some other ways to combine them together and put them on the forum, because I want to see what you end up doing. It'll be very intriguing for me. So the next thing we're going to do is work on this little plant material here. And for that, we're going to use the Scor-it Mini again. Now, I don't need the stop guide, so I'm going to set that aside. And what I'm going to do is use a piece of brown, kind of brown cardstock like this. And instead of doing measuring this time, I want a very random pattern. So I'm just going to start scoring, and I'll move it over just a little bit. Like I said, I want them kind of random. It looks a little bit more organic that way. After all, this is supposed to be a plant. So we're just doing a series of lines here. Just move it along. Kind of a big gap on that one. Just move it a little bit here. Maybe one more like that. I think that's probably enough. Now I have these raised lines. And what I'm going to do is ink this. I don't want to spoil my green paper here. So what I'm going to do is a little direct to paper, which is just inking the paper right from the pad. So first a little red on here, and I'm going to turn it over and do the same area on the other side. All right, there's the red. Now we're going to do some green right here. And I'll turn it over, and there's the green on this side. Now the next step involves my trusty old paper cutter. I've had this thing forever. It's probably made 1,000,000 cuts. Nobody else knows how to use it because it's got a wobbly old blade, but I love it. Now, watch what happens when I pass this through the blade. A little bit of each of those little grooves that I made, and then some of the color is on every little slice. Now, I've done this a few times, so I'm just going to speed it up to show. And the thinner you make the cut, the twistier the piece of material looks. So if you can manage to move it just a little bit, that's really the best way to do it. You can also do this with the scissors. That'll take you a little bit more time. All right, so the next step for me is to take my little bundle of weeds here, and I'm going to take a piece of double-sided tape, and I'm going to put it right on the edge of my paper cutter here, but you can do it at home on the edge of the table or whatever your work surface is. Now I'm going to take that little bundle that I just made, and I'm going to lay it with the bottom right on the tape, like that. Just kind of press it into place. Now I'm going to fold over the tape onto the top, press, and then fold over the tape on the other side. And what that's doing is kind of capturing all those little pieces inside, as you can see, and it makes it a little bit easier to handle when we get ready to put the whole card together. All right, so here's my little bundle of weeds, and what I'm going to do is attach it to the back of the pot. Now we'll just kind of put that down. I'm going to tape it in place. And of course, you know, you'll get a different look by how many you make, but this one is fewer than the other one I showed you. But that's basically how you do it. Now, the way I attach this is with a little foam tape. Now the last step is to attach this to the card. You can use whatever kind of attachment you like, tape or glue or whatever. But you can see that I've made a little bit of this cream color background, and the frame is going to fit right inside like that. So here's the final card. You can see that we've divided up the picture plane in the background with this nice, these really interesting lines. And of course, you know I always like to put the same color from the front on the inside. So in case you want to write something, you're ready to go. Now here's a variation, same kind of an idea, only with a different color palette. As you can see that I've used the same pot again, and then this is the lid turned upside down, used as a dish on this card. And of course I have my lines from my Scor-it Mini, and you can see it's basically the same kind of an idea. Now, I finished this card off with some little punched flowers, and I have one of those tiny little punches. Sometimes these are a little difficult to use. So I was able to go to Stamping Details, which is my neighborhood store, and they have everything you could ever want there. And I got this power punch. Now this power punch is really great to use if you have a punch that's a little difficult to use, because you have the power of leverage now. So what I'm going to do is pass through this cardstock. You can see that what I've done is painted a little bit of the acrylic paint onto this piece of cardstock before I punched them out. So I'm just going to slide it in here. And as you can see, this one has the upgrade adapter, which allows you to use any size punch. Look how easy that is. And there's a little aid that you see here, these little templates that fit onto the surface here, and they hold any punch in place. It's really a nice tool. Well, you can see that I got a whole pile of these little flowers, and what I did here is I just put some white glue on and put them in a little arrangement on that. Now let me show you a couple of other things I've done. So here are the variations I told you about. This one was made with scrapbook paper and some gold embossing powder. This one's scrapbook paper also, and I just cut out some of those background flowers and used them as the flowers in the vase. Now this one is my family. This is me and my wife Carla and her parents. And you'll see that those score lines really accentuate the kind of the nostalgic look to this card. So I hope I've taught you some easy techniques to help you conquer your division problems. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
For step-by-step instructions on how to create this week's project, download the design guide featuring special make-it-your-own bonus tips.